Hey everyone! In this video we're going to solve a new project called Instant Search. It's from learnjavascript.online, the Learn JavaScript online course. And the purpose of this project is to build an instant search from a list of data that you have in your project. It doesn't use fetch, but it shows you some cool and neat tricks when it comes to trimming, removing double spaces. Let's get started. So let's start with the end result. This is what we're going to have at the end. We have the list of spacecrafts or spaceships. And if I search for Pioneer, notice that the P does not have to be capital. It's lowercase. And I can also search for anything inside of that word. For example, able I, and that's going to find all the able I's. Clear. And if I do 2, it's going to find all of them. So this is an instant search which is case insensitive. Now let's close the end result and see what we have. This is how the project starts. We have the index.html here, which is an input with a type search. And the way the type search is different than type text is that when you write something, you will have this X which allows you to clear all the search. We have some basic styles. We have the data.js. This is a file that we cannot edit. It's in read-only mode. And here we just have an array of spacecraft objects. So this is already imported from here. You can see here it's exported, so export const. It's not export default, it's a named export. This is why the export has to have the curly braces. And to see this kind of object, you can console log data here and you will see it, yes, over here. So for example, if I go into the first item of the array and I do .spacecraft, that's going to give me the name of the spacecraft. How does this work? We can scroll all the way to the render function. It takes a word and it defaults to an empty string. It starts by clearing up the inner HTML of the list. And there's a mention of this that this is not the most optimal way for performance, because every time we search, we're actually destroying and reconstructing the whole list. But the point of this project is just to learn about these two functions. And then we take that word and we clean it up. We'll see what the cleanup word function does in a bit. And then we call the function filter data and we give it that cleaned up word. So this is the function that's going to do the filtering. And then we just render the spacecraft. And when a page loads, we run the function render. So if we don't run this, the first time we will not have anything. And then when we write, we'll start having data. So this is why we're going to keep it. And we listen here on the search element, this one, that add event listener input. So every time I write anything inside of it, we get the search value and we pass it to the render function. So if I write A, B, C, yeah, that's the search value. Now, we can start with the filter data function and then come back to the cleanup word, because the purpose of the cleanup word is to make it case insensitive. So if we have an uppercase, lowercase, they should be the same thing. It should also trim. So if I write space and then Pioneer, it should also find it. Knowing that this is not implemented yet, we can just always try to do an exact search for now. And this is what we have to implement over here. This is acting on the data that we import from the data.js. So if I return nothing, there's nothing to return, which means I need to return a subset of the data. So either all of them or an empty array or a small subset based on some condition. And this means I need to use the filter method, because the filter method works on arrays and it allows me to give a condition of how I'm gonna filter or which items I need to return. So this is gonna give me one item. And if I just return the item, this is like saying I'm not really filtering, just returning all of them. But if I say item that starts with P, that doesn't work. You can add a console log item here, just see what kind of data type it is. And this is going to be an object, not the actual string. So this is going to be item dot spacecraft dot starts with, and then for example capital P. And this is going to return, it's going to filter only all of the spacecrafts that start with a P, or for example includes opening parentheses, and that's only going to have those that have the opening parentheses. Interesting, right? But that's not what we want. We want to filter when the spacecraft includes word. Yeah, so when the word we receive over here is included in the spacecraft, this is going to be one of the items that we're going to return. So let's try this. Capital P, IO, and that's already working. We're almost there. If I write able, it doesn't work again because we have it as case sensitive. So that's gonna be capital A, and it works. I, nice. Parentheses, it's working. But now if I write pioneer and I write an extra space, it doesn't work. That's because this word over here needs to be trimmed. Let's keep a log of this word. So let's see, if I write space, pioneer, there is an extra space character over here, and that makes our filter break. This is why we have this cleanup word function, which allows us to do all of this cleanup. For example, we need to start by trimming the string. So now if I write space, pioneer, it's still the same. But how do we do case insensitivity? There's multiple ways. The one I prefer is actually simple, because instead of making it case insensitive, you just convert both of them, both of the things you're comparing, to lowercase. So look, what if we convert this to lowercase? Now if I write capital P, it can't find it anymore because item.spacecraft, for example, is with a capital P. But what if I lowercase this one and I also lowercase all of these ones? So then toLowerCase dot includes, it's going to be pioneer. Even with a lowercase p, it works because item.spacecraft, so this one, when it's being checked with the dot includes, it's actually being lowercased. And that really makes it so much easier to implement the case sensitivity. So now let's run the test, and that was it. You can now complete and download the solution. And there's this interesting improvement here, which is if I write pioneer space 0, it works, but if I add double space, it breaks. And you know, users make these kind of mistakes sometimes, and it's nice to think about them ahead of time. So let's go ahead and try and implement this. We have a comment on it here, is that double spaces, we want to remove them and make them a single space. This allows you, yeah, just the example we gave. So the code for it uses .replace method, which accepts a regular expression and the replacement. So this is the regular expression that allows us to look for a space character with the plus in the regex, means it's going to be either one time or more. So then we can take that and replace it with a space. If it finds one space, it's going to replace it with one space. If it finds two or more spaces, it's also going to replace it with one. And this is why we can try this over here. So to .replace, and then we need a regex, so // and global, so that it matches all the spaces that we're going to find, even if they are in different parts of the string. So we want to look for the space character. And then just to show you quickly, if I have a console log word here. Okay, so now let's take a look at this one. If I write a space b, it's going to make it a plus b. So now we also want to say that we're looking for the space character more than once. So now if I write a space b, that's going to be, both of the spaces will be converted to a plus sign. We don't really need a plus sign, we just need one space. So then if I do a space b, it's going to be a one space and then b. And now I can say able space I, and it still works the same. So this instant search project is part of my Learn JavaScript.online course, and it's on chapter 28. That's because you need to know about the DOM and events as well as forms to be able to do this chapter, as well as everything before, even though we don't really use fetch or promises in this particular project. But yeah, it's on chapter 28, and I hope you enjoy it. So that was it for this week's video. I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Let me know what you think, and don't forget to check out my courses. If you want to learn programming and you don't have a solid foundation, or this is actually your first time learning programming, go to learnprogramming.online. If you know some programming and want to get into JavaScript, then go to learnjavascript.online. And if you want to learn React, then go to react-tutorial.app. All 3 courses are linked in the description below, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.